All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited today. I have Coach Bart Miller. He is the offensive line coach at the University of Illinois. I did not go to school there, but I'm a big fan since birth. So, Coach, we were just talking a little bit. Welcome, first timer. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate your time and appreciate having me on.
Yeah, two of my friends are Illinois fans are jealous. I sent them a message. I'm like, guess who's coming on the podcast? And they're like, who? It's like Coach Miller. And they go, no, he's not. You're lying.
Well, hopefully I don't disappoint. I'm sure we could probably get a better participant, but I'll have to do, I guess.
Well, there's no better coaches than O-line coaches. I
believe that. I believe that. Yeah.
We have our own language, and if all five don't work together, it doesn't work. So it's like
O-linemen in nature are a different breed altogether, right? Just the mentality it takes to play that position, the mentality it takes to coach the position, right? Understand that position and really take a lot of pride. And that's kind of one thing we really focus on in our room is the pride of playing that position, right? You're doing something that nobody else is willing to do or can do, right? And that's certainly something that we kind of reinforce in that room, and then, like I said, take a lot of pride in.
And I always tell them we're the best looking too. We're the best looking.
You know what? I tell you what, if you pull O-line guys in the NFL, O-line coaches, they've done pretty well for themselves. They've outkicked their coverage most of the time, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we don't have to look athletic, but we can be athletic. I always say that we don't have to. But real quick, you said you played. I went to Elk Grove. I think you said Elk Grove High School in Illinois.
Yeah, Elk Grove High School. Yeah, I graduated from Elk Grove High School in actually Elk Grove Village, right, Illinois, and so understand really the level of play in the Chicagoland area, football in the state of Illinois. When I was in high school, Illinois, that was the Sugar Bowl year, right, when they went down in 2001, and there were guys from my conference. Kirk Kittner was a Schaumburg grad, and a couple guys in the MSL, guys that played at Rolling Meadows. Back, some of the coaches maybe listening to this remember guys like Abe Jones, that at least were signed to come down here, and it was a big deal, right? It was a big deal to play Big Ten football. It's a big deal to follow your in-state team, and I'm not a native of Illinois, but certainly had my formative years here, and remember those teams. I remember getting invited to Coach Turner's O-line camp, and got recruited down here, and remember those classes very well. Guys like Martin O'Donnell, who still does the radio right now and has become a friend of mine. And I remember watching those guys in high school and watching them go on to play at Illinois and following Illinois, and now I'm a part of it. And it's really pretty special.
I was going to say, because like when you listen to Coach B or Coach Bielema, because I can say his name right, it's kind of the same thing. He played high school football in Illinois, and he said there's a pride to coach at the University of Illinois. Like, I know you've been all over. Your coaching career is kind of taking you everywhere. Is there still that pride of, like, I coach at the University of Illinois, even though you didn't live your whole life here? Like, I played high school football. I understand it. There's a little bit of a pride to be at Illinois.
Absolutely. And I take that's not lost on me. I take pride in that. Just, you are at the flagship institution in your state. It's it's a world-class institution with an unbelievable alumni and support. The fans are hungry for winners, right? I mean, just look at the way that they reacted the other night when the basketball team won the Big Ten and stormed the court, and the emotion and the passion that surrounds the athletics here. And I walk around with that eye on my chest very proudly. And I said that when I took over the O-line here, when Coach B hired me on, and I gave a press conference, and people, I got a lot of warm results from that press conference. And I meant every word of it, right? That I means something to me. It means something to our players. It means something to the people of the state. And that's the way it should be. Right. So I'm very proud of where I work. I'm proud of what we're doing. I'm proud of the building process that we're going into it. Right. I mean, we took over in a very tough situation, and that's nothing against the former staff or anything like that. It's just a very difficult situation that we took over. And in year one had some success, and, we're not happy with that. That's not good enough. 5 wins is not good enough. We want to be able to really grow this program into what it could be. Right. And it, competing for championships, winning championships, perennial bowl games, right? I mean, those are We want to create a power in college football at the University of Illinois, much like the basketball team has. And we've got unbelievable support from our administration, and all those things factor into the pride in where you work, and who you work with. And I think that's a big thing with our athletic department.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the previous because we all know I talk like building a house. You lay a foundation. They might have done something, then you just add on. You might have said in your press conference, I can't remember, it's been so long. When you came in, you're like, I'm not going to worry about what happened before. I'm worried about what right now. So when you came in, you're like, this is the first thing we have to do as an O-line. Like, what was the first thing you said? Like, this is my thing. This is what we're going to do to change it.
Well, and that's a great question. One of the first things, and maybe the most important thing, is establish an identity of what we are, what we believe, how we're going to play, the mentality of which we approach practice, our training, the way we play the game. That kind of philosophy that it goes into the unit. I'm not talking about an offensive philosophy. I'm not talking about a team philosophy. From an O-line perspective, that mentality, that ethos that we create and then grow in our players, and what that meant to play offensive line at the University of Illinois, what it meant when you walk in that room, when you step on that field, and how we're going to do things. So I think establishing that, I think, was critical. And then building cohesiveness, right? As you said and I before, right? I mean, it's 5 guys working together to effectively dominate your opponent, right? It's the only position in sports that is built like that. It's the only position in sports that's solely dedicated to protecting someone, right? And we want to play very, very physically. We want to be the most physical team in the country, and you can't expect to play and live in that world if you're not in it every day,
right?
And so we take a huge emphasis in that. We take a lot of pride in that. And doing things that nobody else is willing to do, right? That's where winners are, deep down, where no one else is willing to go. And you had to establish that really in the unit from day one, and you recruit to it, you practice to it, you train to it, and it starts to become a part of who they are.
How excited were you when you came in and there was like a ton of seniors, like they all came back? Like that says a lot about you guys and Coach B. Like, how excited was that? Like, we're gonna have old guys to work with.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was excited to get that experience, but that was experience that hadn't worked under me or Coach B or anything else, right? So it was still, you were still installing something, you were still laying a foundation, you were still doing some of that. You just had a little bit more experience than older guys, right? So they had a lot of starts, they had all these things, but they hadn't done it with us. They hadn't, and they hadn't had the success. Right. So it wasn't like they were coming off of this, really, really successful tenure. They had played a lot and at times had played well and certainly had the ability. Right. And so we needed to get them ready to play our style of football and again, kind of change that mentality. I had some familiarity with some of the guys, Doug Kramer. I had recruited Doug at FAU when I was at FAU. He was actually committed to me at FAU once upon a time. And I was very fortunate to work with a guy like him. He was critical to our success up front this year. A guy that was consistent kind of throughout the whole year, and Vidarian Lowe, right, who obviously performed very well at the combine this last weekend and had a chance to get drafted, which is exciting. And so having those type of guys was big. Palcho coming back. We get him back one more year.
Yep.
But Palcho was a guy that had started a lot, but was still very raw in what we were asking him to do. In fact, we moved him inside later in the year because of the development of a young player in Julian Pearl. So there was a lot of that, right? We had some experience and we had some leadership, which I think was critical. And I was very excited about that, but we had to still develop, right, that position, those positions, to do what we wanted to do, and because it was a different style of play. It was about a 180 in terms of the technique and the mentality up front, and I think you started to see that in games like the Penn State game and the Minnesota game, and even early on in the Nebraska game, we were able to run the ball really effectively all year, and I think that all started with the leadership, and then the fact that those guys embraced what we were doing. I give them a lot of credit. It is not easy to come in. You played for one or two guys your whole career, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, hey, we're going to do it this way. I think our credibility, Coach B's, myself, right, in O-line development, I think played a big role in that. They were able to buy in right away. And at the same time, I had to earn their trust. And I think that was a big piece of the way I coach. And, you started to see that success up front.
Yeah, I guess I should ask it that way. More excited for the experience, but now I bet you're more excited for younger guys to come in and say, now I can really mold what it is. Like you've laid the foundation, now you can mold it and like start from scratch, kind of, not really from scratch, but like now they know I got young guys. Now it's really developing it and get it to where it needs to be.
Right. Well, this spring will be a little bit different. We lose some of that experience, but we do have a few guys coming back, and we've got some new incoming guys that we're very excited about. But we've laid that, last spring we laid that foundation of hey, this is our expectation in individual drills. This is how we operate this type of block. This is how we do, X, Y, and Z. And that's a big hurdle that we don't have to deal with this spring, right? We can, like you said, hit the ground running. We can kind of step up where we left off, right, and continue to get better. And that's how you develop. That's how you create a pipeline. That's how you create tradition. And I'm excited about that. We do have to replace a lot of leadership, right, which is going to be our challenge as a unit. But I'm very, very excited about our class, our freshman class coming in. I thought we had an unbelievable 22 class. I shouldn't say unbelievable, a very foundational 2022 class, right? We got guys that we think can play at this level and higher, and they've got to develop. We've got a couple, junior college guys that came in, joined us in the spring that we're pretty excited about, and then guys that are stepping up that maybe didn't get a chance to do it last year. Guys like Jordan Slaughter, and we get Pearl back, we get Palcho back, right? Where guys, there's some optimism, on the horizon of how can we want to see these guys how they've developed over the last year and then take off from there.
Yeah, I had a good question for you, and I didn't think of it. But one thing I really was going to ask you was, how'd you guys come up with the Barge thing to put all the offensive linemen out there during the Penn State game? I'm watching it, and I go, as an O-lineman and the run game coordinator myself, I'm like, that's beautiful. That looks great.
Well, we give a lot of credit to Coach B for that one, but people didn't do their homework. We did that back in 2012 at Wisconsin. I did it again at University of Wyoming, and then we busted it out against Penn State. So it was kind of a something we had in our bag of tricks, and that we've kind of experimented with variations of it before. But we felt like it gave us an edge that game, right? We felt like we could control that line of scrimmage, and we did. We rushed for 357 yards on a top 10 team, in a top defense. And you go back and watch the film, and, the score obviously was low. But, 9 overtimes against that type of team and basically controlling the line of scrimmage the entire day. And that Barge formation had a big part to do about it. And it became somewhat of a Twitter hit and social media kind of wonder, which was great, but, our guys take a lot of pride in that, and nothing changed. The expectation, we actually lost a couple guys during that game, right? And if you look at the line, like the next man stepped up, and I think that game went a long way to kind of get some confidence in some young guys, right? Zach Barlett, a Chicagoland guy, right, Plainfield guy, he played in that game as a true freshman, and so there's a lot of positives we took from that, but the Barges, that was kind of a fun deal that really took off, on an identity of its own, and we had a good game plan that week.
Yeah, they didn't line up to it right there. I always forget the picture of like you guys lined up in. There was this huge gap, and they were like, "All right, here we go." And then I guarantee high school,
they didn't adjust to it. And then when they did, we had ways to counter it. So, it was a fun game.
Well, I don't know about you. I was tired just watching. I'm like, these guys are I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat. I'm like, now
9 overtimes. Well, they go to the 2-point plays. Well, you don't carry 9 2-point plays in a game,
I know.
We will this year.
Oh, I bet you're going to have about 15 of them just in case. Like we have to have some extra. I'm like, you have what? Maybe 4, maybe.
Yeah. Your call sheets like 3 to 4, and you might call those once a year, if that, and that, but we had to call 9 of them. So
might as well just call the same one over and over and just see if it works. I was just like,
see if they've learned to stop it, right?
You guys had been exhausted. The players were exhausted as coaches. You're probably like, I'm mentally done.
Well, I don't know if they're going to change the rule, but there's obviously things, that's how rules get changed, right? Is something like that happens. But we were walking back, and I mean, every play we were walking back and forth, because we didn't want to be in their student section, and they did. And it was quite a game.
Oh, it was fun. I'm just like, we had to go somewhere. I'm like, I'm not leaving until this game's over because it's just going and going and going. But that's good for recruiting too. That Barge thing all over Twitter, and it's good for be on TV. All they talked about for the next 3 days was Illinois football. And I'm like, this is great. This is great to get attention onto U of I. And
well, it was successful, right? I mean, it'd be one thing if you went out there and it wasn't successful, but it was successful. And I think, I don't know how many, it was 28 times or something we ended up being in that formation. And it was just, it was a very unique deal, but our guys, we trusted the personnel we had on the field, right? And we're able to really establish the run game, and that was the huge key to our success that game.
Going back, because I remember going back to you guys coming in, and you said you got the experience, but now you have to really try to get these older linemen to do what you want to do. Was there things you wanted to do and say, well, they just can't, they just can't do this, so we have to adjust and change the offense just a hair because they
that's a good question. I guess the simple answer would be no, but at the same time, there are things that they were better at, so we focused on those, right? And I think that was something that I think any good coach does, right? Is adapt to his personnel, and while we wanted to continue with an identity on offense and a philosophy on offense, we still had to do what our guys could realistically accomplish, right? We didn't have the 340-pound guys that we did when we were up in Madison, right? We were a little bit built a little bit differently. And I think we actually did utilize some of their strengths very, very well, right? Outside zone, inside zone, those type of things. And we're able to really get the run game going in that light. So, I guess the question's a little bit, or the answer's a little bit, a little bit gray in that. I mean, we felt like we could do some things that really concentrated on their strengths as opposed to maybe limited some of their weaknesses.
I would say from the outside looking in, because I can only watch it as a coach sometimes. I can't really do it as a fan all the time. I was like, man, they're doing a lot of inside zone or wide zone, and it just seemed like more zone than Illinois had to do. Well, they've done it, but Illinois was all over the place at one point. They were running power, then they get to zone, and me and my friends talked about that. We're like, they're doing a lot of wide zone this year. They're doing a lot of inside zone, and it just, from the outside looking in, that's what it looked like. And I said, but that's what they can do. If that's what they can do, and I think the Penn State game, I think I saw Penn and pull a lot. I was like, they're just going to do things to get to the outside and do that.
Yeah, that's right. And we felt like, well, we had, Doug Kramer's a draft pick caliber center, in my opinion. Obviously, he was an all-conference performer. He was athletic and could do some of those things. He could get out and pull. He was really, he made drastic improvements this year under us with just the way he handled that wide zone stuff, right? And his steps and things. And, was very, very effective in blocking some of the nose guards that we saw. And, you had athletic tackles like Julian and Vidarian that could get backside cut off. They could get guys reached. And so those were areas that we felt like we could exploit and take advantage of. And so I think any good coach does that, right? And in the run game, we were able to, which obviously led to a lot of our success.
And then again, the big old question was, are you sure that's inside zone or is it duo? Because of all the blocking, the big old, if you look at social media, and I'm like, well, hell, if I know, I call it inside zone because it's all the same to me.
A lot of times it's that is the age old question. A lot of times you can tell, I guess to the trained eye, you can tell by kind of the way the landmarks are. Yeah. By the way, some of their steps and the way those combinations kind of fit, right? They'll look much more gap oriented in the duo world, but we have the ability to run both, right? Which again is kind of an asset, and you're seeing that in the NFL too, right? Is that ability to switch to both worlds, and I think it just makes you that much more potent as an offense and as a running attack.
Well, it was always defensive guys asking me because they can't tell, and I'm like, well, if you look at the angle, this is what it is, and then. What do you mean the angle? It's always defensive guys, and I'm like, that's why offensive guys run it. Is duo looks like inside zone if you're double teamed, and a little bit, and they can't. It is what it is. Our head coach is a defensive guy. He's like, what's the difference? Because they're watching film. What's the difference? Yeah, and it's hilarious. Or like, I'm asking you this. Well, what's the difference between wide zone and outside zone? And I said one's hooking and one's trying to get them this way.
Sure. Well, and even then, different guys call it different things, right? I've never been a wide zone guy. I've always called it outside zone, so some coaches kind of treat them one and the same. Other guys do have various differences to technique and minute differences, but it kind of depends on what you preference, really, right? It's all at the end of the day, it's vocabulary and how you're gonna how you're teaching certain things, maybe little nuances with the back or aiming points or landmarks or something like that. But for the most part, the fundamentals, the skill sets are going to be consistent with whether it's wide or outside. So
that's all I've been researching is wide zone. And one of the first things a wide zone, like the gurus say is, because I'll say outside zone sometimes, and they're like, no, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for wide zone. And what's the difference? Yeah. Outside zone is the aiming point of trying to hook them. You're trying to get to the outside. Wide zone running back still going to cut up the middle, so it's still a downhill.
We kind of, I guess, we treat it one and the same a little bit in terms of how we block it. The only thing that would differ in our zone elements would be really landmark of our back, but we give him. There's some, he's got the freedom, he's got the autonomy to kind of do what he wants, as long based on his read, right? And so. We don't really get into semantics of what it's called per se, as opposed to, hey, this is the concept. This is how we're going to fit it versus this. This is what our goal is. If that doesn't work, this is the solution, right? Or if the defense does this is how we would combat that, right? So it's, instead of getting, a different word for a different play that has really the same type of thing, we just have variants that we can tag. Right. So it keeps it as simple as possible. And, I don't think you should have a million different concepts, right? We've got inside zone, outside zone, some type of pin pull, some type of gap scheme, right? Things like that. And then variants of those. But the root of those concepts is very consistent across the board, which allows our guys to play effectively, right? It probably allows them to play fast, allows them to really be able to handle a variety of different looks. When you start just naming every little thing, and trying to fit every little thing to every specific look, it gets pretty hairy there, right? And that's where mental errors come into play, and MAs and those type of things, missed assignments, and it's never a good thing. So we try to keep it as simple as possible with limited variance in the rule structure, right, based on the concepts, and then little variants, little tags that we can adjust.
I was going to say, like, the tag world is a big world of offense, and like you said, you could have 4 run plays, which is fantastic, but then once you start tagging, if you got 3 tags per one, now it's really like, now you're getting into the 15.
12 or whatever. 15, right? And to you it's the same, or to my guys it's the same, but to a defense that's a completely different, right, concept or completely different idea or whatever it is, right? So I think that's a big part of it, right, is how different staffs really say those different things and label those different things and how they teach them.
Right. Like, I want to keep inside zone and wide zone terminology the same, just aiming points are different. So to them, it's, hey, uncovered rules, simple, we're good to go, but it's aiming points. So wide zone, you're aiming, you're taking the backhand, trying to get to the sternum, whatever. Inside zone, you're trying to push them and aim here, keep it as simple as possible. Then you start tagging, oh, you got pin and pull, you got whatever. And that's what you guys were doing. So I'm watching it, you guys last year, and taking notes of like how you guys were aiming and inside zone and the pin and pull. And I'm like, you guys were pretty good at it. And I'm like, that's what they could do. And I know Coach B wants the big boys and like run downhill, because watching you guys at Wisconsin years ago, there was no stopping it. And, and they still do that. Wisconsin still does the same stuff. It's changed.
And we did a lot of that at Wyoming too. And that was the way we were when I was at Ohio. And so it's kind of been the future of what I've done my whole career also. And who'd I learn from, right? But the game has evolved too, right? You're looking at some of the teams that are having the most success, and there is some element of it's a bad kind of connotation. It's a bad word, but the spread world, right? I mean, you go back and look at what that really is, right? It's variant formations out of 11, out of 12 personnel, right? It's being able to be flexible with your tight ends, getting them in space, right? Condensing formations, exploding to different formations, right? Having reliefs to your run game in case the box gets heavy, right? It's all those things kind of encompassing, and that's what you're seeing. There has to be some balance, right? Because otherwise, and this happened to us at Wyoming, it happened to us a little bit last year, right? We started getting, 9 and 10 man boxes. Mm-hmm. and that's a very difficult thing to combat, right? So you have to be able to have the vertical threat. You have to be able to spit the ball when necessary, and that balance, I think, just plays into championship level football, right? So that's you saw it with Georgia this year, right? A team that's been great defensively, that really kind of adopted that what Alabama did 3 years ago, right? Is completely changed, not completely changed, but changed a little bit of the mentality of their offense, and really both of those teams have been almost unstoppable, right, throughout the last 2 years. And when LSU won theirs with Joe, right, he was phenomenal with the way he was able to distribute the ball, and they had a great offensive line. I mean, that guy won, Lloyd Christian Berry won the Remington that year, and it just, you look at some of those different teams that are really finding various ways to attack the defense, right? And so that's what that stems to, with the idea that you're still keeping it conceptually very simple,
right,
and then have variants off of it to attack weaknesses in the defense.
Oh yeah, when you guys were getting 8-9-man boxes, and you probably didn't hear the noise, but I saw it and read it. Like, what's the O-line doing? Like, this is a problem, and I had to come on and say, "Are you guys looking at the box?"
I only have 5, Steve.
Wow. No, I was. Don't worry, Coach. I got your back. I'm reading it. I'm seeing it, and they're like, "Well, the O-line's struggling," or this, and I'm like, "Well, they've got 8 guys in the box. If you have a tight end, now it's just 6 versus 8. Like what? Like,
yeah.
And because people, the O-line, the worst things you can hear: block somebody. Oh, no.
Just block them.
Just block them. Like, oh, if only Coach Miller would have taught him that. Like, I don't know what you're like.
Right.
What do you think they do, 5-6 days a week? I don't know. Like, don't worry. I'm like seeing on Twitter, and we all know how Twitter works. And then I hear it in person. I'm like, they were doing their best. There's 8 guys in the box.
We performed very well. We averaged in our zone game. We averaged, I think it was like 5.9 yards a carry, which is phenomenal, right, in the zone game. And if you watch the line of scrimmage, right, that line of scrimmage changed just about every play. And you're going to win a lot of football games if you keep that up, right? And obviously, we got to make some improvements on offense. We got to continue to balance the offensive, production and things. But I thought we ran the ball very effectively at times throughout the year, and certainly was a big way for our success. But we can always get better. We can always improve, and we will as an offense this year. We're excited what we got going on in the spring, and Coach Illini coming in and implementing really an exciting dynamic into the offense, right? And obviously had a tremendous amount of success at UTSA. So we're excited about what that looks like moving forward. And, hopefully you'll continue to see some dominance up front.
Because I know you got to go. So I'll quickly wrap up. I was going to say that, like, how excited, don't give it away. Don't give it away. Nothing given away. But you're going to change some things with the new offense coordinator coming in. But, you guys are working closely. Like, is it excitement around, like, this is what we're going to do? Because Coach Bielema's not wasting time. He's like, we got to win. Like, we got to turn this around, and love that mentality. Illinois has not been like that way in a long time. So, like, is there excitement around with, like, this is the tweaks we're going to make. We're going to get better. We're going to work on this in the spring and be excited.
Yeah, there's, I think excitement might be the only word, right? There's around the office. There's some freshness to it, and Coach Lundy's done a great job coming in and installing what he wants, but then also kind of fitting in with our staff. And we did some good things last year. We laid this strong foundation. We just didn't do enough to be as good as we could have been. And I think that was, we hopefully addressed that. And I think the general feeling around the offense, around the office, is one of excitement, is one of hunger, right? And when you got a team that's like that, right, when you're not having to battle some of the things you have to battle when you first take over a program, and everybody is has their vision on one goal moving forward collectively, and there is that sense of purpose, right, in the office. I think it can only lead to excitement, right? So I'm excited to get out there and get it going. We've talked a lot about it. We've watched a lot of film. We've been meeting about it and installing it and those type of things. Now we got to get out there and cut it loose. And we know there'll be growing pains. We know that going into spring, and that's what spring's for, right? Is to get better, is to develop. And we're a development program. I mean, that's what we're going to do. And that's kind of our philosophy anyway, is recruit, good high school football players, right? Tough, smart, dependable is the word we use a lot. And then develop them into becoming the best that they're capable of being. And that's no different with our offense, right? Or defense. But obviously on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm excited about what lies ahead. I think we could certainly have the weapons returning, the production returning to be very, very successful. And I'm looking forward to spring.
Did you have to tell Coach no hard feelings from the UTSA game when he showed up? Like, hey, there's still no hard feelings from
He actually handled it really well, because you think about that, that's not an easy situation coming in to a team that you beat, and now you're taking over and still bridging that gap of, they were 12-1, and
yeah,
he had all kinds of records, and he had a 1,500-yard rusher and 2,000-yard receivers, and just unbelievable numbers. Well, we did some things here that especially running the ball in the zone game in the pin pull world that were really pretty good. So that's a hard job for him to come in. He's the only new guy on staff, and to bridge that gap, but also say, hey, I'm here for a reason, and this is what we're going to do. And I think that was a very unifying message that he came in, and he's provided nothing but strength to the staff. So it's never easy, but he handled it unbelievable. We're excited, and I'm excited to work with him this year.
All right, 2 last quick questions. I'll take you like a minute. One, how ready were you guys to try to play in the bowl game when Coach B tweeted, like, I'm just waiting by the phone? Like, how close was that? Like, getting ready to go?
That was pretty close. That was a phone call. Get you guys ready to go. We're going to be in the office tomorrow. And so that was as close to like a Minuteman status as you could probably have in today's modern world. And we were to a T. There was no hesitation, right? We were ready to go. And to me, that tells you kind of the makeup of your team, right? Like, they wanted, we went 5-7. We finished on a good note. Obviously, at the end of the year, we played good football at the end of the year, but those guys wanted to keep playing, right? And we lost some seniors, and we had guys that were, had already gone down to train for these NFL games, and all-star games and things. And they're like, yeah, coach, I'll be on the flight tomorrow. Like, I'm ready. So it was just, that was pretty cool. And that was 0 hour. I think we were ready to go. So it didn't work out, but we were ready. And this, hopefully, that we never have to put that fate in anybody else's hands. We can control that moving forward.
Well, as fans, we were excited. We were like, yes, like we love that coaches are like, let's go. And the players like, let's go. And
so I got a little wood shop in my garage, and I was actually building something. I was working on a kind of a cabinet, and my phone rang. It was Coach B, and I'm covered in sawdust, and he told me the news. I was like, all right. So it's kind of like putting your, let's go. Let's answer the call. So
tell your wife, I got to go back to work now. Like,
right.
And then this is a random question real quick, and then we could wrap it up. There is a restaurant in Illinois I have not been to in years. That's an offensive lineman's dream. It's called Fat Sandwich.
Okay.
Have you been able to go there yet?
I have not, but I am sure the guys know about it.
It's right by an Insomnia Cookies when I used to hang around Champaign.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still there. It may not be. I don't know, but it's literally like cheese sticks, French fries on top of the sandwich. It's like huge.
That sounds like an old lineman's dream. I don't know if that's a COVID casualty or not. I don't know that. I think I would have heard of something like that.
It used to be big, and when Illinois high school wrestling state tournament happened at the U of I,
yep,
all you would see when they were done is just a swarm of wrestlers, because now they can eat now, and
right,
just rush in. And we'd always go during March Madness and watch a game there and eat the sandwich when I was younger. And I don't know if it's still there, but I'm thinking.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna have to Google that or something and see if that's still.
It's probably gonna be like a 2,000 calorie sandwich, so you won't move for like a day, and you're gonna have to work out for like 6 hours.
It is open. It is open. That's downtown. It's over in Campus Town, that Green Street area. So I don't venture down there too much, but I'm sure my guys know about it.
Oh, it's an offensive lineman's dream. I just wanted to help you out there, Coach, in Champaign.
Well, good looking out. I appreciate that.
Well, Coach, I know you got to go. I appreciate you coming on again. We're excited for Illinois. Like, just overall, basketball's been great. Football was great. You guys were just literally a few plays away from winning a couple more games and being right there. I'm excited. Loved watching you guys. We like where it's going. Not too much pressure. I know it's a building process. I understand it. But I appreciate you coming on. We appreciate what you guys do for Illinois. And I didn't go there, but I've been a fan since birth. So we're excited. Excited to see what you guys do in the spring. Try to watch it and see what goes on. And hopefully you guys make some noise in the Big Ten here soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks very much. Well, our spring game will be April 21st. And we're playing on the Big Ten Network. So, guys can tune in and watch that or come down and visit us, but certainly appreciate your time, and ILL.
ILL. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. This is another episode, ILL.